Welcome to the series of videos on pipe network productivity tools for AutoCAD Civil 3D. In this video, we'll discuss crossing labels and tables and their associated commands. Crossing labels changed significantly in version 3.0.0.6. And one of the big things that we've changed in crossing labels is with styles. In the previous versions, there was only one type of style. Now you can have multiple types of styles in your drawing. Additionally, we've added support for pressure pipes. That's been a big request by users. And so now you can have one crossing label that works for both pressure and pipe networks at the same time. Let's get into the settings and take a look at the styles and how the styles work. On the crossing label styles here, you can see we have some tolerance controls, some ability to update legacy labels from previous versions, the label start number, and the renumber start number. Then we have the available styles in the drawing that we pull in, and we have the separation distance expression. So now you have the ability to build your own expression. So we've pre-populated one in here. If I take a look at that expression, it should look very similar to Civil 3D's expression editor with the various properties that we allow for with crossing labels. If we come down in this dialog, you'll see that there's the default style to be used when the crossing is in plan or when it's in profile. So you can have different styles for those. And then we also allow for proximity checks and conflict checks. And so when it does find a conflict, it would use this style here. When it does find a proximity, it would utilize the separation distance between the two pipes, the true separation to the outer wall, and it would check that distance to see if it's less than your proximity check distance that you have here. If it's less than, then that label style would then populate with the proximity label style. Now these do override any style settings that you have on your labels, even when you run update. And that is just to alert you that, hey, these two pipes are in conflict, or they're not, or if they're within your proximity distance that you have set. Let's take a look at the styles. We get into the standard style here. We'll edit this. And this should look very similar to what you see in Civil 3D. So we have the style name, the description. We're using multi-liters, so you choose your M-liter type that you want. You have your layer of where the label is going to go, the rotation of the label, and then you can override the color of the label from the layer. Over here on the right, this is what the label is actually going to look like minus the code that runs it. This code should be very similar to what you're used to seeing in Civil 3D label styles. On the left, we have the parameters properties box with the various properties that you could reference in here. Things like northern and eastern coordinate of the crossing, or associated surface or alignment that are in there. You could put those in. We do use lower pipe and higher pipe as our conflicts address. It does figure out this pipe is the higher pipe, this pipe is the lower pipe, so that you can order them however you want in your label style. Once you have something selected, you would then come in and modify your units or capitalization or those things, and you use this arrow just the same as we do in Civil 3D to push that over to the right pane. On the right pane, you can select the code, and it will show you with the precision settings and things like that are set, just the same way that Civil 3D works. In this style, we have crossing number. We're pulling in the crossing number here. We're pulling in an alignment station and the alignment name. Then we have the higher pipe, inner pipe height with inches, the pipe material. Then we have the flow line of the higher pipe invert. And then we get into the lower pipe properties, and then we have separation. Now separation, I'm using our separation distance value, and I'm truncating that and setting the precision to 0, and that's to get me to just the foot unit. And then I've got my foot dash, and then I have this expression that I'm pulling in that does the same thing but divides that by 12 to get to inches. And that gives me the inch property. And so you can control the precision on that if you don't want to dial into, say, a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch. So once you have all that, then you would click apply, and we can take a look at the other labels. I'm going to change these over to leader with text, and you can see we have proximity error listed here and the same content for the label. And we're overriding the label color with yellow. Click apply, and we'll go to conflict and do the same thing and change this to leader with text. And here we've just defaulted it with crossing conflict and the color being red. Now if you come down to the next page, that's the crossing table style settings. This is very similar with expressions and your available table styles. And then how do you want your table to show in plan view with that style? Let's edit this style and take a look at how this works. We've got the name, the description, the AutoCAD table style, because we are using AutoCAD for these labels, the layer, and then do you want the text to wrap, how you're sorting, and then the structure down here, you can add and remove columns, and you can control the content that's displayed here. If you click on a header, you can get in and modify the value of the header to say what you want it to say. And perhaps this table heading, we're going to say crossing labels. And then within the column values, you can double click and you see the table text style editor pop up, and that's got the different properties similarly to the label that you could reference in. The invalid text at the bottom is if a label is removed and then you update, and that we do maintain that label in existence so that label number doesn't get reused by something else. And so you can have it override with NA or whatever it is you want to put in there instead. And we'll click apply and apply here. And now we're ready to start labeling our crossings. And so down here I've got like a 3D view to show as we populate, and then a 2D view at the top. And I'm going to go ahead and label my pipe crossings. And we have two modes. We have manual and automatic. I'm going to run automatic mode. Automatic is going to ask between two networks. It does show pipe networks and pressure networks here. So I'm going to use storm and water main. And I'm going to hit apply. And if you do have a large number of possibilities of conflicts, it will tell you that, and it will ask if you want to proceed with this or not, because you may want to save your drawing or do it at another time when it does take some time to run. Because if you do have a lot of crossing conflicts, you probably are going to want to wait to run it. It can take some time to run for quite a few crossings. So you can see the status bar down in the bottom right, processing on these between the proposed storm and the water main. It does tell you each network that it's comparing against. There were a couple of check boxes on that network selection dialog as well that are for specifically prompting, if you want to have it check within itself or within each network itself to see if there's a crossing between the various pipes within those networks. So that's what that was. All right, now we've got that done, I'm going to run a manual just so you can see how that works. From the manual side, you have plan profile. You have the ability to set the alignment and surface before the label is placed. And then I'm going to pick this curved pipe and this pressure pipe, and that label gets added. And then we'll exit out of this. And I'm going to come up and use the crossing style, crossing label manager. Open that up and show you how the label manager works. Now within the label manager, you have the ability to select labels, and you'll see in your drawing, as you select a row, they do highlight in your drawing. So you can find them. You can additionally right click and zoom to the crossing label, select the crossing label, the higher pipe, the lower pipe. If the label is drawn, this will be checked or unchecked. And then here you do have the ability to override the label style that is displayed. So if you have multiple styles and you want to control one, it will change that. Now again, if there is a conflict, it should update it to a conflict style to notify you of that, but you will want to take a look at that. It should remember what label style you have chosen in this list. For surfaces and for alignments, you can use this pull down and say that you want it to reference a specific surface, and then that should show in here. Your precision for that is controlled, for this display, is controlled on the general settings tab within the settings. And then for the alignment, if I say this should be roadway A, you can see that immediately populates on the label as well as here in the dialog. If you want to do these in mass, you can multi-select them and then use these pull downs at the top to set a specific roadway or surface to it, and then hit apply, and then all of that should get updated. And it does it while it's running. You can see it running in the background there. So once that's done, you hit close. I'm going to go ahead and place a crossing table, and I'm just going to pick all here. So I'm going to pick all my labels at once, and I'm going to place the table down here so you can see what it looks like. So here's our crossing table here. And if I make some pipe changes or whatnot, I can simply just run that. They're not dynamic. I do have to click this button to update, but when I run update, it will go take a look at all of those labels and perform whatever new updates are necessary for those labels and the table at the same time. And so all of that information should get updated for you. Lastly, we have the ability for the renumbering of the labels. We have the ability to perform that renumber, and it works similar to the Civil 3D partial tools. We set the starting number, and we say maybe it's 100 here, and then I select the labels that I want to process. Now you can window select here, or you can manually pick on screen each label. Now it should follow the order that you're selecting in how it renumbers, and then you hit enter, and each label should then get renumbered accordingly to what you just entered in. Thanks for watching. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and be sure to check out our other apps on the Autodesk Exchange Store.